Japan, Rajama Yana, Zobe Sanje, Bada Shazundem, the Varishavan Jidinchama, Jivon de Kaloy, Lana Eva, Lana Menanje, the Masanje Jumden, Pejawa Shajato Bana Chata, Shoda Jazuchima, the Ma Jumden and the Shisha, Rajama Yana, one Zobe Sanje, Bada Shazundem, the Varishavan Jidinchama, Jivon de Kaloy. Lana Meba, Lada Menanje, the Masanje Jumden. Bejawa Shajato Bana Chata, no Shoda Jazuchim. The Ma Jumden and the Shisha, Rajama Yana. Zobe Sanje, Bada Shazundem, the Variship, Jidin Jamba Jivon de Kalo Java, Lana Meba, Lada Menanje. Sanje Jumden, the Bejawa Shajato Bana Chata. Shoda Jazuchim, Kanze Kanyan, so I Sergeant and Command and Manage and the Nachos. Tezekaba Jana Charles and Nanda Comacho Susan. Ishajazo Sejan Humboda and Tabajet and some Lama. Gumbochoni Jana Charles and Senjo Demba Chimentavish. Send on the Wajana Charles and the region as they were so much. Yame Change Jana Charles and Gumbotu Jejan and Batam Jejan. Sonomia de Yazuja de Jana Charles and Tabel de Chateau. Giving us on the Jeju and the Machoki was Shinju Jana Charles. Trinitera Maya de Labatala, and Shingatama and Gideon Charles. The Wajia Mejajan Gavabus of Jarangis and the Yosu Tennis on Jeteman. Karmara, Rema, like you must have a children, Melamala, Genda, and the Jejan on the dark. Sonam de Atom Jesavan, you command on the Genjan, and God and not and Shiva Latu. Sibezo and Joan Jovarisho.
To the teacher, the blessed one, the one Cognition, the full destroyer, the completely perfected, fully living being, perfect in knowledge and good conduct, Sugata no supreme guide of beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and humans, to you the completely and fully awakened one, the blessed one, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Chandrakirti, I prostrate and call for refuge. To the teacher, the blessed one, the one Cognition, the full destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and good conduct, Sugata no supreme guide of beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and humans, to you the completely and fully awakened one, the blessed one, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Chandrakirti, I prostrate and call for refuge. To the teacher, the blessed one, the one Cognition, the full destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and good conduct, Sugata no supreme guide of beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and humans, to you the completely and fully awakened one, the blessed one, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Chandrakirti, I prostrate and call for refuge. When the supreme among humans, your honor is said, you placed our 7 strides and said, I am supreme in this world. To you who are wise then, I prostrate. With the pure body's form, supreme youth, wisdom motion like a golden mountain, fame that blazes in the 3 worlds, we know ignorance, to you I prostrate. With the supreme signs, face like a spotless moon, color like gold, to you I prostrate. You are immaculate, the 3 worlds unknown, incomparably wise one, to you I prostrate. The Savior having great compassion, the teacher having all understanding, the field of merit with qualities like a vast ocean, to you the one come to darkness I prostrate. The purity which makes one free from attachment, the virtue which frees one from the lower realms, the one path, the sublime pure reality, to that dharma which pacifies I prostrate. Those who are liberated and also show the path to liberation, the holy qualified visualizations, who are devoted to moral precepts, to you the sublime community tending virtue I prostrate. Do not commit any non-virtuous transactions, but perform only perfect transactions. Subdue your mind thoroughly. This is the teaching of the Buddha. The star, mirage, a flame of lamp, an illusion, a drop of dew or a bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud, see conditioned things as such. Through these merits, may sentient beings attain their hope seeing, subdue the whole force, and be delivered from the ocean of suffering, of aging, sickness, and death.
Sanje Jalo Soje Jonama, Chanju Bado Dane Jazuja, Nage Jazoja Betsonan, Dola Benje Sanje Rubajo, Sanje Jalo Soje Jonama, Chanju Bado Dane Jazuja, Nage Jazoja Betsonan, Dola Benje Sanje Rubajo, Sanje Jalo Soje Jonama, Chanju Bado Dane Jazuja, Nage Jazoja Betsonan, Dola Benje Sanje Rubajo.
I go for refuge and enlightenment to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the merit I create by practicing giving and the other perfections, may I quickly attain the state of Godhood for the benefit of all sentient beings. I go for refuge and enlightenment to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the merit I create by practicing giving and the other perfections, may I quickly attain the state of Godhood for the benefit of all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the merit I create by practicing giving and the other perfections, may I quickly attain the state of Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings.
Tata Nyana Namano, Nyoma Sheda Rishi, Umbo Chule Tedaki, Juya Tawa Shanazo, Tata Ranga Tanyana, Tela Tawa Ming, Kanshin Dala Medawa, Teda Shana Sheda, Tawa Rabdin Ribeshi, May Sona Mazungo Maya, Tina Tajan, Kansi Chunzi Medawa, Tawa Shiva Maya, Tawa Sheja Shana Tina Sheda Ribu, Tawa Tanya Maya, Tawa Meba Medanya, Tawa Nija, Tawa Buma, Never Sheba Sheba, Mamanda Buyamena, Tawa Buma, Tawa Mena, Taja, Tawa Tana, Chida Bada Madana, Dena Bene Georgia, but the Jimmy the Suwa, Never Sheba Juma, Taja Tawa Meba, Never Sheba, you mean you want another Chidabana, you want your Tawa you want your energy. Yamabana Yanozo number Sheba, Sheba, Umbola Sheba, Sumba, Kangi, Yada Jubano, Sudan, Yanaban, Danger Juma, Tonga, and Charles. Maybe we go review from the beginning. Homage to the youthful Manjushris, homage to the great sage who taught the dependent originations, the means by which are eliminated arising and the destructions. So Tudijima also still translate the great sage. He added the great one. So in Tibetan, Kange Jedan Jubata, Sudayin Napanju, Denji Juma, Songa, Tongatana Chafas. In Tibetan, it says Kange is the one who, eliminates the extreme of arising destructions. So extreme of, extreme means one who eliminates or refuted, extreme view of arising, extreme view of the destructions, through or by, the way he taught the dependent originations, through dependent originations. So that, Tuans, that the able one, I prostrate. So, in Tibetan, you read this way. I pay homage to the last line. So from the beginning it says, one who eliminates extreme view of arising and the destructions by or through teaching the dependent originations. The able one, I go prostrate. I prostrate to the able one. So now this is what, and then how he become the able one. How he become the able one means through teaching the dependent origination. And teaching the dependent origination is not just teaching, because the first who taught this dependent originations. You know, so without him, there is, there is no Buddha and the Bodhisattvas and Arhat, the noble beings who can understand these dependent originations. Because of him. So therefore, he is the cause of the teaching of the dependent originations, right? And then also this says, he is the cause of dependent originations, which means the dependent teaching of the dependent originations is depending upon the Buddha. So and then says, what makes the Buddha again that dependent originations? So dependent originations in Buddha is like chicken and egg. Dependent originations, therefore there is the Buddha. But there is a Buddha, therefore there is the teaching of the dependent originations. So this is why we say the able one. So the able one, the Buddha we refer the able one, and the able one means one who is able to free himself from all the afflictive emotions, right? So that's why he's the able one. And then Buddha is not just able one, the able one. So the able one because he not only eliminate afflictive emotion, even the stain of the afflictive emotions. So able and the able one. And then the questions, there's a saying that, dependent kind of realization of dependent originations in the Buddha is like mutually depending. So without dependent originations, without realization of dependent origination, no Buddha. Without Buddha, there's no realization of dependent originations, right? So, and then someone argued that means they are depending on each other. It's just mental projection. They're existing of the mental projections. Therefore, both not exist. And then says, that very nature, the mutually dependent originations, ultimately unfindable is the idea of the dependent originations, like east and west and short and tall. And then the second order, and after that it says, what is the dependent originations? And then, what is dependent originations? What is the purpose of this teaching of the dependent originations? The purpose of the dependent origination is to free individual or oneself from, suffering, the cause of the suffering. And then says, there are many teachings, many philosophical point of views, all of trying to, kind of establish some kind of actual path, lead to the liberations or the moksha. And then by depending upon worshiping the Ishvara, and by thinking that things do exist intrinsically or inherent in particles, and some says things are depending upon or the inherent in the time, independent time. So now the cause of the suffering is kind of debatable. The cause of the suffering is because of you are not close to the Ishvara or God. Some says the cause of the suffering is, the cause of the suffering is because it's kind of cause of the suffering is something that the origin of the cause of suffering is the particle, the elements. And some says, cause of the suffering, the very origin of the cause of suffering, the source of that is the time. So now Buddha says the cause of the suffering is, conceiving everything is intrinsically exist. So intrinsic existence, the view of intrinsic existence is the cause of suffering. Not only that, cause of the suffering is, another one is, if things do not exist intrinsically, therefore nothing really exists in the reality. So that is also the cause of suffering. One is nihilism, one is eternalism. Right? So now saying that this means, every sentient beings, including animals, always kind of longing for the, peace, right? Including animal. And so therefore this Buddhists and non-Buddhists and every human beings is always kind of going after the happiness. So then in order to achieve or fulfill that desire for happiness is you have to find what is the cause of suffering. So Buddha says the cause of suffering is not only not knowing dependent originations, and actively grasping on the intrinsic property or inherent existence is the cause of suffering. So then, so that's the idea of the way the Buddha has taught, refuting the true extreme view through the teaching of the dependent originations, and that he found it, he discovered it, he teaches this from his own experience. So therefore, Buddha is the able one. Then the second, and the main, the stanza number one whose mind has transcended existence and non-existence, abide no more in them. They have realized the meaning of the conditioned existence, profound absence of objectifications. So then, what is that, the very understanding of the dependent originations? What is the, meaning of the dependent originations? Which means dependent origination is, realization that dependent origination is something that, is a mind or the wisdom that free from two extreme, right? Free from two extreme, eternalism and nihilism, not in the middle, which means this wisdom sees the ultimate truth, which is, almost like equal to essence. There is no, any mental constant. The mind that goes beyond the mental constant and sees nothing absolutely exists. So there's nothing, in the left side, in the right side, in the middle. It's total absence. Total absence is not like just nothingness. It is objectively analyzed and find nothing objectively existing. So this is called non-affirmative negations. The wisdom that realizes or observing in non-affirmative negation. So, because of that, wisdom understands the, free from two extreme, not abiding in the middle. So they understand how things are relatively exist profoundly, So then again, this stanzas number 2 say the first. Maybe I'll read the Joseph translations. Number 1. Yeah. So I think here's the profound absence of objectifications is kind of referring to the, realizations that everything is existing relatively, like reflections, like a dream, like a fairy city, In this way, every sentient being's, illusion like existing, illusion like born, illusion like age, illusion like, die. There is no absolute or any intrinsic property, the arising and aging and death. So birth is like illusion like, reflection like, and aging is also reflection like, and the death is also reflection like. So there is no absolute birth, there is no absolute death. So I think I'm still kind of, trying to understand in the English word absolute. So it's something that unchangeable. Yeah, that is the only point, right? So there is no such thing in the arising. There is no absolute. And there is no absolute means there is no such thing arise or come. When the barley sprout has born, and the very sprout which is already born has no activity of, no possibility of seeing activity of born from seed. Right? There is no absolute things. This is how we conceive and imagine when we try to understand the barley sprout arise from the barley seed. So as we imagine, no sprout has ever arise from their seed. Right? So no sprout has ever arisen from their seed, because no sprout ever pre-exists within the seed. Therefore, it cannot come from the seed. Right? And then why we say in the language, the sprout arising from the seed? Because it can be imagined. It can be imagined when you plant the seed in the soil, and then you see the whole changes of the seed. Seed within the soil, the seed is changing. That all change indicates sprout is coming. So there's some kind of imaginable coming. So that is the base. That is the base. Imaginable coming is the base for the language to say it is arising, it is coming from the cause. Other than that, no sprout ever come from the seed. So the arising is the existing, or the meaning that existing is through imaginable coming. Right? So that's why I think it's like a dreamlike. So if the birth is like that, and the aging is too, is, aging, like, how's that? Yeah, the aging is something that is action that happening right now, is also based on imaginable, continuity.
imaginable continuum is the basis for something is aging, something is, getting older, something is going to die. So then at the end, when the death happens, so that death is not absolute. It is no one can die absolutely. So no one can, nothing can die absolutely, because when things died, that is not the final. That is not the end of that thing. So the death is not the end, therefore there is no absolute death. Right? So now they're saying this is the relatively we can conceive arising, relatively we can conceive aging, relatively we can, conceive the death or the dying. Right. So that meaning is always remain existing, like reflections, like mirage water. So therefore, this is saying the profound absence of objectifications. So in these which is profound and non-perceived, profound and non-perceived. So, non-perceived means that the wisdom, what it sees, what it's kind of observing is there is no anything. There is no anything means there is no any mental construct. There's no meaning. There's no any mental construct. So in the face of that wisdom's absorbing in the emptiness. So that's why non-perceived, profound and non-perceived. So this is kind of like saying that wisdom realizing emptiness is, if you try to understand, if you just kind of draw a picture, wisdom realizing emptiness is, one is, one aspect, it is perfectly landed relatively. And another aspect is, observing in space, total space. And it could perfectly, lean or could be land on relativities, because the absence, therefore, if things could exist, relatively exists. Other than that, there is no option. So,
but even after that realization, the mind cannot get attached to those relativities, even knowing that they lack intrinsic nature. The mind cannot get still develop like an attachment to those relativities, even being aware that they are dependent arising. You know what I'm saying?
Can you say that again?
Yes. My question is, the cause of suffering, it is because we try to find behind phenomena like an essence, like something intrinsic, something that it is there objectively. The wisdom that realizes emptiness, it is the realization that you are looking inside the object, it is not there, it is completely absent. Why? Because it is not created, it is arrived independently. So everything in front of you, it exists, of course, but dependently, conventionally, causes, conditions, designation, or other. my question is this: the mind still cannot get attached to it, to something that you know that it is relative, it is dependent. You cannot get attached to, or to feel aversion, or to even knowing that lack intrinsic nature, like the mind cannot get attached to.
I think, yeah, maybe.
I'm trying to put the example, but I don't know.
For example, there's a kind of electric machine that can project many colorful bubbles in your ceiling. There's a machine that you buy, right? So like Christmas light. So you put, there's a, small things in the machine, you put on the table and it projects many colors. So now saying that you like this, how would you say, this
universe.
Yeah, that kind of universe. You like, you very much, you are happy about it. So now that does not mean you have to attach to that things that are projected on the ceiling. So if you try to go grab that, there's nothing you can grab. And that projection is also, if you try to, unfold the machine, you cannot find it. So this and the ceiling together is project something. Now saying that do not attach, it is relatively exists. There's no objectivities, but we cannot deny the existing of the projection.
And the enjoyment of the projection.
Yeah, there's enjoyment there. So without attach, enjoy is the happiness. So attachment is the cause of the suffering. Right. So I think the I sense powers and the consciousness and the element and the contact, there's many things happen. And then with human beings, and there's another reality. With animals' body, there's another reality. With God bodies, another realities. So that reality, the reality of the conventional reality, is like exactly like these projections at the ceiling. So it's saying that if you understand that, who will really attach and go after, chase that? Unless you're a cat, So they jump around. This is, the sentient being is like that, like a cat jumping on that, try to, try to catch that, those colors. Right. So I think, and this Buddha says, subdue your mind thoroughly. This is the teaching of the Buddha. You purify your mind, set your mind free totally from the attachment. And that is the Buddha's teaching. This is the Buddha says, this is how I experience happiness. This is how you should experience the happiness. So
yes, I think even in the question that I was asking, I was visualizing the relativity, with the characteristic of the, like if it had some kind of nature, it to be dependent, like that is like a solid kind of. I mean, it was a fallacy there, even in the question.
Some of the followers who believe in Ishvara, the Creator, I think they have two kind of mind. When they say He is the one who can help you, and why they think? Because He is the one who caused you suffering. So I'm going to ask Him, help me. Stop. Which way you say, help, please help me means don't cause me suffering. Please stop, right? Kind of. So it's kind of there's the absolute cause, right? And something that the the cause of the suffering is because of the element, is the particles, is the source of the suffering. So which means, the free, I think, from all the elements is the kind of, and you have no more suffering. Maybe that's why people say rest in peace when you put it down. So that is the only peace. You're disappeared. You're just
you're not there.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
so some people think that every day you are not. There's no certain what you're going to face in tomorrow and after 1 month or 2 months. It's because the time is going to prove. And you have nothing. You have no control over the time. Time will change you. So which means they think that there is time who is deciding, so they're independent time. So here the Nagarjuna says there is no independent time. It's not because of the Ishvara. It is because of your mind, confused and, conceive something unrealistically. That's why mind is experiencing suffering. So if you train your mind, if you convince the mind the reality as it is, and there is no reason for the mind to feel discomfort or dissatisfactions. Right? So it's your mind is right now in kind of causing suffering. Is your mind can also, brings the happiness to you. Right.
So, but even happiness or sadness, it will be a totally different thing that when the mind is clear, I mean,
Yeah.
I mean that as a Buddha, you can, as an enlightened person, of course, you feel empathy and you feel, love and sadness and you don't become completely indifferent to everything.
No. Because things are not indifferent.
Yeah.
Things are always appears differently.
Yes.
So how can you be indifferent?
Different.
So you see the reality as it is.
Yes.
So how you kind of, cause your mind to be numb. So I'm seeing this. So I have desire not to see. I still want to see another one. So that's why we say with friendship mind, we see favorable. With anger, we see unfavorable. Right. So more you become friendly, you are happier. So we know that, right? So, the emptiness is not just causing your mind to be numb. Emptiness is, brings clarity in the mind. So the more clarity, more your mind is, every activities of the mind is, associating with the wisdom that understands the reality. And your mind is, totally under control. Yeah. So the delusion mind, if any kind of delusion mind arises, it blocks the wisdom. It kind of, maybe for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, right? So it steeps the mind, and mind could not really exercise the wisdom. So if this happening, like from the morning to the night, how many times is happening? So if almost 24 hours, there is maybe few hours, you may not be kind of stiff, and most of the time it's just like that, under the emotional. And how this mind, this emotional is confuse the mind. So now, not this time, this life, and previous life, previous life. So that's why mind kind of, almost never allowed by those emotional to see things beyond the mental construct. So you could not see is possible of freedom. Like, life present. So they decide, they know, they think that, oh, I will die in this prison. Who decided, and suddenly someone says, you're free. He could not believe that. There's a possible of freedom. So that's why our mind is like that. You think whatever the emotional feed you, and that is the reality. So you have never really access and thinking about there's the possibility of the freedom. So that's why some people it's very hard to accept. But it's theoretically it's proving, but your mind says, oh, I don't believe this. So keep rejecting. The theories keep proving, your emotionally keep rejecting. So that's the kind of very, conditions, the situation is pretty much frustrating. So frustrating means that, so, because you are rejecting, and the theories, every theory is proving there's a freedom, but you still insist in the rejections.
The first stanza, the last line, Loiseau's translation says profound and non-perceived, and Tibetan emphasizes its profound absence of objectification. So it's non-perceived because it's absence of objectification. Because
they say in this, is a profound means it understands the relativity like the reflections and the mirage and dream. So there's no objectifications. There's no solidity. There's no substantial. So that's what there's non-perceived.
The direct translation from Tibetan is more close to non-perceived, or
non-perceived, yeah. Non-perceived, yeah. Did you hire someone to translate? So that's the first homage to the Buddha through teaching of the dependent originations, and mention also the benefit from that understanding the dependent originations, which is free from too extreme. So that is the reason that Nagarjuna said, therefore I pay homage to this, the able one. So yeah, Nagarjuna's, most of Nagarjuna's text is like that. He's not saying that you are the Bhagavan or you are some kind of supreme. He says, this is what you taught. So therefore you are the able one. So then the another benefit of this realization of dependent originations, stanzas number 2 saying, who have eliminated nihilism, the source of all illness. So nihilism is source of all illness. Denying everything, is the source of illness. It is directly leads you to the, lower realm. Should attain to the reason why absolutisms must be rejected as well. So
between nihilism and absolutism, it is worse nihilism.
Nihilism is worse than absolutism. Yeah. So we are, right now we are okay, because we are absolutists. So that's why we are okay. So once we fall in the nihilism,
At least we are not
you
like
know.
those. We see before.
So once we are nihilism, we have a red eye, and there's a red and head, forehead. So so nihilism in absolutism, yes, should attain to the reason why the absolutism must be rejected as well. So this is also kind of the benefit from the realization of dependent originations. Yeah. So so those whose mind, this I forgot to explain this. Those whose mind has transcended existence and non-existence, abide in no more in them. Those, I forgot that one. So those means there's a two, the two persons, right? And then another, the person who kind of, either they fall in the nihilism or the absolutisms, or another person who's perfectly understands the reality as it is. So the one who understands the dependent originations is free from two extreme. And then the commentary also set the example, and who is the person who has, to free his mind from two extreme through understanding dependent originations. And one example is Shariputra. And how Shariputra has revealed these dependent originations, then says, what is the cause? And how much he spent time studying the dependent originations. And then says, there's some people who spend many years studying dependent originations, understands the emptiness. And another is the Shariputras, who did not spend that much because of the many life in the previous life has studied rigorously and gained the knowledge. And now he's, just hearing the line of the Buddha, and he revealed that dependent originations. So yeah. So then so number two, you who have eliminated the nihilism, the source of all illness, should attain to the reason why absolutism must be rejected as well. So now the direct result from the nihilism is lowram, and the result from absolutisms, like, with this absolutism view, you can accumulate the merits, you can practice the Dharma, you can, practice the 10 virtues and all kind of bodhisattva vows. You can, through that way you can attain higher rebirth, like human being, God being, form realm, formless realms, all of this. Now saying this absolutisms and the nihilisms, and in this result is always in cycling in samsara. Maybe you can have a better life, higher rebirth, but it's not freedom. So with this absolutisms, you cannot, set yourself free from the samsara. This is like you're trying to clean up something, with the dirty kind of, with dirty hand. You're trying to, clean something with, maison. Dirty is not going to clean up another dirty, right? So dirty, washing machine or cannot, wash the cloth, So absolutism views, we think that absolutism view, you can born the human beings, you can accumulate the merits, you can accumulate the karma to be a king or powerful or wealthy, most wealthiest in the world. But this cannot really help you to set freedom. So this two view is not going to help you purify your mind. So the absolutism view, with that absolutism view, you can practice the Dharma, you can, do many things positive, you can be achieved the higher rebirth, but it's not going to purify the mind, purify the mind from the kind of, it cannot subdue your mind. So this is almost like you're trying to wash, things in the muddy water. So that's number 2. Number 3 is if things were really true as the naive construe them, then why not accept their nothingness as the liberations? So almost like if you read this there, if things were really true as you have imagined, as you, conceive and construe, right? Then why not you are not happy? Because you have realized the truth, absolute truth. So then says, other side, that the Aryas, noble beings who has revealed these dependent originations, they are in the peace. They have delightful, and they have happiness, they have joy, they have freedom experience. Their mind is very flexible, very under control. It can, you can place mind onto anything they want. So that much peace, why not this ordinary sentient beings have, this kind of happiness? Because, Arya being says, we are happy because we have revealed that absolute truth. And sentient being says, what we see, what we smell, what we hear is truth. If both are truth, and both should experience the same peace. So why not accept their the arahats, their understanding of nothingness or emptiness as the liberation of the peace they experience. Why not, they have, why not they have gained this kind of peace? And then says, so therefore, someone is lying, right? So two sides, both says, I have found truth, So the Arya being says, because we found that truth, we are, our mind has, revealed that truth. Therefore, they are in the peace. So then these ordinary sentient beings, there's something their perceptions has a, mistake. So therefore, what is their perceptions? Their perception is eye consciousness, air consciousness, nose consciousness, tongue consciousness, body consciousness, mental consciousness. Any of those 6 perceptions has not revealed the truth. So what they say is truth is lying, is a lie. It's not a lying, it is the lie. They are not lying, but their truth is lie. Right? So which means, means your eye consciousness, air consciousness, none of those is the valid with respect to the reality. Right? With your eye consciousness, you have not revealed the ultimate truth. With your air consciousness, you have not revealed the ultimate truth. Nose consciousness, not revealed. Even the mental consciousness, not revealing the truth. And then again says how the eye consciousness, with eye consciousness sees the color, your mind thinks there is independent color. When air consciousness hears the sound, there is intrinsic sound. And with nose consciousness smell, there is intrinsic smell. There is intrinsic taste. There is intrinsic textures. There is intrinsic favorable with mind. There is intrinsic unfavorable. So everything that you see, you conceive, you imagine, you always tend to think there is, all of them are intrinsically exist, inherently exist, substantially exist. So that is the, how your mind being, overpowered by the misconceptions. So whole mind is governed by the misconceptions and delusions. So in that kind of situations, how can this person really experience the peace? But they can. So because of they have not found the peace, they always says the pleasures is the peace. When they get bored, they go to the sea, this ocean, and that's peace. And then for that peace, you have to come back home, make yourself boring, and then again tomorrow you go, you find the peace. If you're not boring, you cannot find the peace in the ocean, you cannot find the peace in the mountain, right? So the boring is the reason that you can experience some kind of peace. Abroad, right? Abroad, yeah. So that is actually the peace, the pleasures is the obstacle for the peace. The peace and the pacifications is very synonymous, right? So peace means, maybe there is the period of time that is your mind is not, influenced or impact by your delusions. If there is the moment where there you experience the peace, right? So that kind of peace is always, destroyed by, craving for the pleasure. So that's kind of, if things were really true as the naive construe them, then why not accept their, so their experience in the liberation in their ultimate truth. So they and theirs. If things were really true as naive construe them, which means naive, right? So that's number 3. So you cannot liberate through the absolutisms, nor escape this existence through nihilisms. Great souls are liberated by fully understanding the being and nothingness, being and existing and entity and non-entity. So talking about entity and non-entity, in the Prasanga school, the entity and non-entity, like for example, if the entity is a thing, is a product, non-entity is past of that product. So the, for example, and the minute is the entity, is a thing, if this is a thing, and the minute is because of non-entity of the many seconds, seconds that are futures, not yet born, seconds that are past. So all of them makes the entity of minute. So if the entity, the things, is intrinsic, and non-entity also intrinsically exists. Non-entity is the reason the entity exists, right? So, like the present of the life, the present life or present day is, constructed based on many of non-entity of the hours that is already past, the hours that are going to be born, not born yet. So those past and future non-entity of the hour is construct the base for the, these are the base for to construct the present day. So thing and non-thing is mutually dependent. So if one is truly exists, then both of them truly exist. Yeah. If none is not truly exist, then both of them not truly exist. So those who have do not those you cannot liberate through absolutisms. So which means you cannot set your mind free from with this kind of absolutism view, viewing the intrinsic property and truly existing is not going to help you, help you free from the cause of the suffering. So you cannot liberate through with absolutisms. So nor escape this existence through nihilisms. Now, the absolutism and nihilism, the both is not beneficial to you. Once your mind is set for the liberation, and this absolutism is not going to help you, this nihilism is also not going to help you. So that's why in the Tibetan Yueben number means. So the entity and non-entity, or thing or non-thing, the both, once you realize that both are mental concept, both are not truly exist, not intrinsically exist, is to, is to lead your mind, to the liberation. That kind of realization, that kind of understanding is the only, only cause which can set free your mind from the, cause of suffering. So, if you understand this, entity and non-entity is not a really kind of like an apple and orange, and you can also understand samsara and nirvana is also not like apple and orange. It's just sleep and awake. Not knowing and knowing is not two different things. So then the number 5, those who do not see the reality presume the duality of life, cycle, and nirvana. Cycle in nirvana. Those who do see the reality do not presume either life cycle or nirvana. So there's a kind of, sometimes we study in this Nagarjuna's point of view, and at the same time, we could not really, understand the dependent originations as the Nagarjuna has explained, but we kind of, intellectually, through the information, we come to understand that, well, yes, there is samsara, there is nirvana. So, which means your mind is thinking, yes, there is samsara, and abandoning that, and you can go to the nirvana. So you see that nirvana and samsara is two independent, condition or two independent factors. So that means you still not understand, So with that kind of, imaginations, the samsara and nirvana as two independent worlds. And based on that, people may think, if there is the place, nirvana and samsara is the place that independently exists, then you are also independent exists from samsara and nirvana. So you are the one who is, right now in the samsara. You are independent from samsara, you are in the samsara. So almost like you are in the Pomona, or you are independent from Pomona. Anytime you can leave Pomona. So the Pomona and yourself is, different. Like it's totally like a black and white, apple and orange, like car and car driver. So you may see that, and then, this kind of, knowledge can easily deceive your mind. Yes, there is independent I. There is, there is someone who is going to help you, take your hand and pull from samsara to the nirvana. So then automatically, you are not rejecting, the creator. You are not rejecting creator, you are not rejecting independent self. So some, they kind of study Nagarjuna, but deep in their mind, they are, believing the creator. They're believing the independent I. Yeah, so that means you have put the teaching, the dependent originations, you have eight, it not digest. so so you have constipations. So this is kind of saying that, so you cannot liberate through absolutisms. Now saying, with absolutisms, you cannot set free your mind from samsara, nor escape this existence through the nihilisms. So as I mentioned earlier, there's absolutism and nihilism is some kind of dirty substance. You're trying to rub that, you're trying to rub yourself from these two dirty substance to clean up yourself. So these two dirty substance, with that, you cannot clean yourself. And then the saying, another persons, those who do see the reality, do not presume either life cycle, or nirvana. So, person who do not see there is me and samsara is not independent, and then this person's me in samsara is my mind with defilement, and that is samsara. As samsara and me is not like Pomona and me, right? I am samsara. I am in samsara means I am in my way of thinking. I am in my way of viewing. So that is samsara. So when you free from this misconception, I am freedom in liberations. Right. So those who understand dependent origination, they don't see the samsara and nirvana as two different things. And they don't see there is kind of, sometimes people say, now before he was poor, now he's totally changed. And he himself says, I'm totally different from my, kind of old age or an old time. So they see the different. So, so the arhat do not see that kind of thing. Or I'm totally different from samsaric being. I'm supreme or superior. This is, I'm just simple because I'm just awake. That is the reason. I experience happiness. So Nyangendeva Lomsim, Lomsim, I don't know. Lomsim is kind of, there's some Lomba means it's kind of there's a pride, delusional, haughty kind of, being supreme. That kind of, the arhat do not have this kind of thing because they don't see the samsara and nirvana is in the two different places. They don't see themselves different from the samsara and nirvana. This is like just make change into yogurt. That is, yogurt has no, yogurt says, oh, I was, liquid before, now I'm solid. So I'm different from the milk. There's no such thing. So Nyangende Lomsim. So how they translate? They use the presumes. Lomsim is the presume. What the Tudijima translate. So one is not freed by existence. One does not transcend samsara through non-existence. It's through the understanding the existence, non-existence, their great beings are liberated. So great beings are liberated. So in Tibetan, Yangda Matong Jiden the Nyangen Development Sentence. When I read the Tibetan, it says, Yangda Matongs, one who do not see the ultimate truth. They sees nirvana, nirvana and samsara both are, they kind of their understanding of nirvana and samsara is presumptions. They have only not understanding is the presumptions. So the presumption of their existing, their in samsara is the presumptions. They are going to achieve the liberation is presumptions. Which means, it implies that you see when you think that you are in the samsara, you're similar. You think I'm in house. So when you see when you think about nirvana, I can get out from this house. So nirvana, your nirvana and samsara is not with understanding, with just presumptions. And then says, Yangda Tongwen Jidenda, Nyanganda Nonsense. The one who realized ultimate truth, they are not relying on the presumptions, or they are in samsara, or they are going to achieve the nirvana. Yeah, so in the samsara, the presumption is not a really bad thing. So everything is based on the presumptions. Culture is based on presumptions. Religion is based on presumptions. Business is based on presumptions. And discriminating good or bad is also based on presumptions. And, what to feel shame and not feel shame is also based on presumptions. Right. The presumption is the holding the whole samsara. So you see now this Reason 60 or 60 stanzas. This is like one of the Mula Madhikarikas. It's totally different from 60 stanzas and the rebuttal of the objections. So this is independent textbook. So therefore, this text from the beginning, Narayana made homage to the Buddha. 70 stanzas and rebuttal of the objections. The textbook from beginning or for the end, there is no homage to the Buddha. Because Chandrakirti says, because these two texts is the part of the Mula Madhikarica.
Can you explain us a little more about what you said, non-affirmative negations?
Yeah, non-affirmative negations. So when I say, when I say this is the computer, and that's affirmative. Yes. Then I says. Non-affirmative is like for example, when I say there is no such flower that grows in the sky, so that is a non-affirmative negation. No sky flowers, no, no human tail. So non-affirmative negations. So when I say this is the empty table, so which means affirmative negations. It is empty and suggesting, yes, there is the table, which you can put something. So, and then another one, non-affirmative, affirmative negations, like monks do not drink wine. So, which means, monks do not drink wine is non-affirmative negations. So they do not suggest drinking milk or tea or anything. Just simply negate the wine is not drink. So non-affirmative negations. So then affirmative negations, this fat monk do not eat in daytime. So monk is fat, which clearly says he must be eating, but then you negate he never eats in daytime. So that suggesting he must be eating in the night. So that is affirmative negation. Negate and suggest.
Yeah, you negate something.
Negate, no suggestion. Yeah. Negate and no suggestion. Negate and suggested. Two things. So the emptiness is non-affirmative negations. No intrinsic existence. It simply negate intrinsic property and never suggest something else. So yeah, if I'm going to read from the last time, he says, wherein the body dissolve, cognitions stop, sensations depart, intentional actions are eradicated, consciousness subside. And similarly, he who once had, irrepressible body and an addiction to the sensation, with the liberation of his mind, is like a lamp extinguished. So now they're saying, this line is, followed by, both, Vabhashika school, Sautrantika school, Mayana school, Midori school, all of them, followed by. So that's for in the Sautrantika school and according to the Theravada traditions. So what is mean by liberations? What is in the nirvana? So many of in the Theravada traditions says when the body has ceased to exist, when the mind has stopped, so all the karma and actions stop streaming, and that is the nirvana. So that kind of final nirvana is, discontinuation of the body and mind. So that is one of the interpretations. Now, in the Mahayana traditions, particularly Midori school, when Buddha says the last line, like a lamp extinguished, that's the kind of, the lamp extinguished means, how the lamp has extinguished, how lamp has, ended due to exhaustions of the wick and oil. So the consciousness come to the end, through exhaustions of the karma and the afflictive emotions. So what has exhausted is karma and afflictive emotion, and that consciousness experience the end of samsara is nirvana. So that's my interpretations. Nirvana means so. And Nagarjuna also, brings arguments saying that if discontinuation of the body and the mind is nirvana, and that has to be achievement. And when the mind and the body is totally cease to exist, turn into nothingness, what is there to be achieved? Right? So if there is no one who is achieving it, why it is the achievement? Right? So then Nagarjuna says, now this is talking about, body has, wherein the body dissolve, the cognition stop, sensation depart, means, the practitioners whose mind is reached a total absence of intrinsic existence, absorbing in, and then, because of that absorbing in emptiness, and that truth that revealed is out of reach of your thought. There is no cognition, there's no cognizing, there's no imagining, there's no conceiving. So that's the reason cognition stopped, sensation depart. So your eye consciousness, ear consciousness, nose consciousness, tongue consciousness, body consciousness, even the mental consciousness, imaginable, those are totally, dissolved. The time your mind is absorbing in emptiness. So with that kind of condition, and you have your mind is free, or your mind is free from karma and afflictive emotion. So that is nirvana. It's not talking about the discontinuation of the body and consciousness. So this is the line is followed by all the school, but interpretation is different. So thus, because of the assumption that even the naive are correctly, one would have to accept that they transcend the suffering by the naive perceptions of nothingness. This is, I think he added nothingness. Only you can read, who have to accept their transcend suffering, just as the saint, the Arya or the Aryas, saint just by entirely abandoning, so that kind of things, So they're saying that because of the assumptions, even the naive sees correctly. If the naive sentient beings, ordinary sentient beings, thinks that they see things correctly, not mistaken in their object, and then they should be, by now, they should be free from all the suffering. Just as the saint, just as the Arya being, why the Arya beings experience the peace, says there is not much reason. It's not because of what they eat, it's not because of where they live, it's not because of their monk, So because they find the peace from realization of the truth. If the truth, by revealing the truth, that much brings that much peace in you, and why not sentient beings claim they have realized the truth? So why not they experience the peace? They should also accept or claim they are in peace. So, alternatively, if one does not accept that they are freed in the same way as the saint or the Arya is by the absence of such perceptions, then what the naive has misperceived through misknowledge must not be ascertained in the realities. So these sentient beings must have, misconceives, and they have misknowledge in the reality. It appears in their imaginative constructions. Consequently, their absolutism's vision is not insight into reality. Their wisdom, their intellects are not really perceiving the truth. So therefore the Buddha, in the King of Samadhi scriptures, this is why Buddha says, that's why sentient beings, the eye, ear, and nose are not, validating the cognitions. What you see is not validating your cognitions. What you hear, smell, and taste, bodily feeling, or the imagining. The tongue, body, mental sensations are not validating the cognitions either.
What does it mean, cognition?
So,
Thoughts? Would synonymous of thoughts?
I think the cognitions is the quality of the mind that is cognizing or perceiving something. So it's not necessary to refrain only for the sensory perception. Even the mind that is cognizing something, recognizing, understanding, perceiving is the cognitions. So just by you see things through eye and ear and nose and tongue is not really validating your perceptions, your understanding. If these sense faculties were, this is hypothetically, if these sense faculty were validating the cognitions, what would be accomplished by the noble path? So then it says, if you find the correct knowledge in your mind, through those six perceptions, so why is need for the noble path? Why there is possible that you can think there's the path to lead to the liberations, because all your perceptions, validated by what you see and smell and what you can see. If this is the truth, why do you need another? Yeah. Since these sense faculties are not validating the cognitions, but naturally stupid and unpredictable, lower those, So, stupid and unpredictable, you who desire the path to nirvana accomplish your aim by means of the noble path. So now saying that, So, because you want the freedom, you want liberations, you want permanent peace, but for sure, so far now proven that your way you see things, smell, and imagine and conceive, and understanding about any kind of reality is not, helping your mind to experience happiness. So therefore, now you should see it is beneficial to follow the noble path. Moreover, the Buddha stated in the Lotus of the Dharma scriptures, all these things were wrongly construct notion. All these things are wrongly construct notions. They are not genuine and do not exist genuine. So wrongly construct. So the things that you think there is reality is, out of misconceptions. You have, you view, whatever you view as the true is the wrongly construct. They are not genuine. They are not true as it is, as it appears. So they do not exist. They are not real. It is deceptive. So they do not originate and are not produced, because the things that you think it is true, they are not true. They do not exist as it appears to you. So therefore, your arising that you see, something is coming from the cause you see, something going to die, disintegrate you see, or all are, originated or constructed, your misconception. So it's not true as you think there is arising. It is not true that as you think there is the death. Their reality and originations are wrong constructions, because your whole existing of a thing is created, projected, fabricated by the misconception.
The good thing it is that they are constructed. So the good thing it is that they are constructions, and they can be deconstructed. I mean, because they are not genuine. They are constructed. They can be modified. They can be changed. They can be, disassembled and assembled again in the right way through the path.
As a construct, means construct and created, fabricated. It is not the kind of case that you have fooled yourself. It is the, it is the fooling yourself by grasping on each of the construct. It's almost like a pointable. Yes, this is there, this is there. So that's, you are grasping on the mental construct. Creating, fabricating is the nature of dependent originations. Dependent originations is a creation. It creates. By depending on the east, you create the west. Depending on the short, you create the short and tall. So the construct is not a problem. And constructing through the misconception is the wrongly perceptions
of the construct.
Yeah. So it is not genuine, it's deceptive. The things are deceptive, things are lie, but if you think there's this can be basis for something to be attracted, something to hate. So that is the wrong perception. Chile chune migyo. The Pumbo Maga, the message at all. Me the now and some means, and then the John Yan yet John brothers. Majun water, my jishon, Yadan yeda, John Botas. Majun waters, nothing arises, nothing arises, mean no such present has ever come from the past, my devas. No such thing has ever arisen, ever arisen from their cause. So Yangdanya the Juma Loprates, So this is originated and produced, and their realities. If one inquiry why these false cognitions do not see the reality as it is, later in the same scriptures, the lotus of the true Dharma scriptures, the Buddha explained, when one is free from engagement with anything at all, created or uncreated, real or unreal, large or small, the intermediate. So now it's saying that, when one is free from this kind of presumptions, presumption about arising, a presumption of, Duce is compounded. Maybe I just simple word here, produced by the cause or unproduced by the cause. The presumption about arising, presumption about what has produced, what is not produced, what is the real and what is unreal, what is, large, small, intermediate. What is the lower? What is the middle? What is the high? In the class, who is the lower class? Who is the middle class? Who is the high class? So these all with presumptions, not understanding the dependent originations, with presumptions, is, now they're saying this is how the sentient being deceive themselves. So they have many, levels that construct, and everything that is accepted to be true or real, through the presumptions. There is no understanding, just believe and accept it. So, and then the, settle. One does not engage with STB, stable or not stable?
Stable.
So it's like, in Tibetan it's Teba permit mijit. Teba means just by body, body and elements. There's no base. There's no base to paint. This is the male or this is female. From the basis, there is no male and female. Means without relying on the mental projections, and you cannot, distinguish male and female. Some may think it's easy. So let me see the body. so it's male, nor a construct any male. So based on the body, based on the elements, all things being unproduced. All things are not produced as you presumed. Everything is not there as you presumed. Everything is not arising as you presumed. Everything is not going to, everything is not going to end by the death as you presume. So everything is not real as you presumably thinking there's the lower class, the middle class, and the high classes. True, so unproduced, because there's nothing that has produced or born as you presume. Through the sought will not be found. How much you try, how much try to reject that kind of classes, you will still find another classes. So right now, people who think, the Brahmin class, and the royal classes, people think, this is not really, it is unjust, right? It is not, realistic. And then if you ask them, what is the realistic in your life? You don't see any level in a human being, right? You don't see the level in your neighbors. You don't see the level in your dog and others' dog, right? So you see that there's. So you simply don't like this kind of, but you're ready to create another level. So how many times you try to reject that, so you haven't found everything is, equal in absence. So all these things are absent, uncreated, unoriginated, eternally void. So that absence of intrinsic existence is eternally, right from the beginning, never exist. So Dadu Tongba, so eternally void as the inert and at rest. So do you understand what's the inert in?
Which one? Inert?
Yeah, eternally void, inert. And at rest. Dadu Tongba Chemenes. So in Tibetan, we read Dadu Tongbas. So Dadu Tongba means forever. This absence of intrinsic existence, right from the beginning, is forever. Chemenes means it's never, never diluted by any thought, any condition. It is that absence of intrinsic always remain, clear and pure by itself. So I'm not sure this in the term inner and at rest is kind of, showing any kind of meaning in there.
Inert in English dictionary says it's lacking any movement, power to move.
It's chemene is like that absence of intrinsic existence. No one can change that. No one can create that. Even you want to create construct, you cannot contaminate the pure nature, the ultimate nature. So, Dadu Tongba, Chemenes. So that the word is always like, even people who can read Tibetan, they still say that. So, chemeness, here I think says produced, created, constructed, projected is very same meaning. So anyone can change the absence of intrinsic existence to absence of intrinsic existence to not absent intrinsic existence. So there's no cosmic condition. Even the Buddha has not created. So that absence is before the Buddha, during the Buddha, after the Buddha. So it just kind of is, nature. It is natural. It is the natural. So no cosmic condition can change that, create that, produce that. So that remain always uncreated, always undefiled. That is kind of a thing. So inert means, what do you say?
It's lacking any power to move.
Oh. So emptiness is no movement from the beginning, so it's not lagging. Yeah, maybe you can say the lagging movement. So if there is no movement, and it cannot be moved by the cosmic condition. So, and the rest, that's not really a thing. Yeah. Chemeness, that remain uncreated, unproduced. Such is the sphere of engagement of the wise. This is why those Arya beings, the noble beings, these wise people, their mind is remain in that truth. That's why their mind is pure and, undefiled, and always could, maintain that peace in their mind. Right? So, dini kebeji chöde tamje nebate kewa menjin juwa tatu tongba cheme dini kebeji chöde tamje. This whole phenomena never exists as sentient beings has presumed. Now that includes, no such thing has ever arises from their cause as sentient being has presumed. No such things has ever arisen or been produced as sentient being has presumed. As the sentient being presumes, nothing really there in the reality. And then says, what is that reality? The reality that sentient beings could not conceive and imagine is the ultimate truth. That cannot be changed, that cannot be produced, that cannot be conditioned, that cannot be defined. Right? So this is why the wise, the Arya beings, the Arhats, always they could maintain their peace because their mind is settled in that truth. Yeah. Yeah, okay. Chanju simjo rinpoche, ma jeba na jeju je, jeba nyamba meba ye, kone pebush. Tonye tawa rinpoche, ma jeba na jeju je, jeba nyamba meba ye, kone pebush. Pama simje tamje dedan denju je, ngendro tamje tatu tongwa. Chanju simbo kanda sushu pe, dada kunje, monom jubje ruji. Kare rabe kuwe shinga su, penda dewa manu jungwe ne. Jeren sawa tinzin jasu ji shape, side bado denju ruji.
May the
May the
precious
precious
body
body
mind
mind
that
that
you
you
born
born
arise
arise and grow.
may the
May
bond
that
of
bond
no
of
decline
decline but
increase
increase
forevermore.
forevermore.
May
May
the precious mind realize in emptiness that you born arise and grow. May the bond of no decline but increase forevermore. Due to all these merits, may all Father and Mother send them through all their happiness. And may all their realms be empty forever. Wherever there are bodhisattvas, may all their prayers be accomplished immediately. In the sacred lands surrounded by snow mountains, you are the source of all benefit and happiness. O powerful which blessed cleansing Gyatso, remain in this world until the samsara ends.
Thank you very much.